I'm standing here a few hundred meters away from an aid distribution site that is run by the American company, the GHF. The idea is to give aid directly to the Gazan civilians and bypass Hamas's hands. Hamas, since the beginning of the war, has been doing everything they can to loot aid. They have been doing everything they can to get the aid and sell it at a higher price for Gazan civilians, prevent it from the Gazan civilians, and maintain their terror machine, their war machine, while doing so. So this is a new solution that brings aid directly to the people of Gaza. And if you zoom in over there, you can kind of see thousands of people walking back peacefully. They have bags of aid on their shoulders, bags of food on their shoulders. I have been here for about half an hour. They have been going in and out peacefully. This place is run by an American company that also has private security within the complex, a closed off area. And the people have been coming more and more, which tells you very simply, they feel safe. I believe this is an endeavor that will have even more points and more spots for Gaza civilians, making it more comfortable and more effective.
Tackling 5 misconceptions about the humanitarian situation in Gaza. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read out some tweets that we saw online, which a lot of people read and believe in, and kind of get you the real idea of what's happening in Gaza. So the first one is, Israel is blocking the UN from giving out humanitarian aid in an attempt to starve the population. What actually is happening, since day one of this war, Israel has been working with a lot of international organizations, with the international community to make sure that aid is going into Gaza. We actually have a joint war room outside of Gaza where IDF, COGAT, and the international communities sit and meet and talk about how to make more efficient procedure of bringing aid into Gaza. What is happening currently is there's 2 ways of aid going into Gaza. One is the new system that you've probably heard of, the GHF, the distribution sites where people can get aid without the intervention of Hamas. And the second thing that is still happening is the old method where the international organization is giving out trucks of aid in Gaza. What is happening currently? There are somewhere between 400 and 500 trucks waiting for the UN. Yes, you heard it right. Waiting for the international community to pick them up and distribute them from within Gaza. So Israel allowed aid, checked it, made sure there's no explosives, anything illegal in those trucks, approved it to go in, and those trucks are waiting in Gaza, you heard it, for the international community to distribute them. Second question, the IDF is targeting hospitals as a weapon to punish civilians. So I can also share from personal experience. I'll tell you this, the IDF has never and never will target a hospital. The IDF is operating against a terror organization, Hamas, a very cynical one, that, spoiler alert, you have not seen them wear uniforms since the last ceasefire, because they don't. They hide behind civilians, they dress up as civilians, and they hide in hospitals. Just a few weeks ago, I went with reporters, and I saw where Mohammed Sinwar, the leader of Hamas, the most senior leader of Hamas, was meeting with more senior leaders of Hamas directly beneath an ER, one of the most important hospitals in Gaza. What did the IDF do? We were able to hit the tunnels from both sides of the tunnel without damaging the hospital and eliminate the most senior commander in Hamas who was planning to kill Israeli civilians. So the IDF does everything we can to mitigate harm. There's actually people in the same COGAT I spoke about that are in relationship with the different hospitals in Gaza, making sure they are helping them, providing them with essential equipment for their functions. Another example I remember, in one case where we were operating in a hospital we knew was Hamas was embedded in, we had an operation before the operation, and the operation was to provide everything needed for the people of the hospital, for the staff to move to another hospital nearby to make sure they can keep giving care to the sick people. The third one, Israel is displacing civilians as part of their war against Hamas. Israel is doing something unprecedented that no army has ever done before. Israel has given up the element of surprise time and time again in Gaza. Israel has put out millions of warnings in different ways, leaflets, phone calls of people, actual people speaking Arabic to actual people in Gaza, of warnings on social media, telling the people where we are about to operate against Hamas. Because again, Hamas is hiding behind civilians, giving a chance to the civilians to get out of harm's way, and then going in to fight Hamas. We would obviously much rather operate with an element of surprise against Hamas, but we are doing that in order to keep the civilians safe and make sure they have a chance to get out of harm's way, something Hamas is doing the opposite of, doing everything they can to make sure that they are dressed up as civilians and hiding behind civilians. The fourth one is Israel is preventing Gazans from getting medical assistance. So as I spoke about before, Israel is doing a whole lot to make sure the hospitals can function in Gaza. Just to remind you, Israel, when we saw there was an outbreak of polio in Gaza, or a potential outbreak of polio in Gaza, Israel ran a campaign giving out millions of vaccinations to Gazans in need alongside the international community. Israel is running a campaign of checking when there are people in need in special assistance and taking them out of Gaza and sending them to special hospitals in Israel and across the world. Israel ran a campaign to find a Yazidi woman that was trafficked by Hamas and to bring her out. So Israel is doing everything we can to make sure that people are getting the right assistance. Number 5, the IDF purposely shoots at Gazan civilians in humanitarian distribution areas. 1, the IDF is not in the distribution site. 2, there is a private security company of the GHF in those distribution sites. 3, the IDF does not target civilians whatsoever. 4, what Hamas did, and very cleverly, is took incidents in different areas near the distribution sites where those areas are described as a war zone and said IDF has fired towards people near the distribution site. I was there a few days ago. I saw the people coming in. There's a very clear path. Anyone who wants to get aid goes on the very clear path. It's wide as a highway. It's very clear where you're supposed to be. And IDF troops are nowhere close. If someone is approaching or fighting IDF troops somewhere nearby, those places nearby are active war zones, are not the place where aid is given. And I side with my own eyes. Those places are secured by a private security company. IDF is not in there, is nowhere near there. I was in the closest post, which is a few hundred meters away.
About the current status of your operation, what are you providing? How much are you providing?
First of all, it's working. So, there's a lot of information that you just shared that I would, emphatically contest. I mean, this is not very different from what we've seen across this war, where every time there's a casualty in the Gaza Strip, information comes from the Gaza Health Ministry. Everyone's considered a civilian. This is an active war. Over the last month, we've delivered. Soon it'll be 50 million, food for 50 million meals across the Gaza Strip. And by the way, it's not just one active war. It was 2 active wars. Half of this time, our organization has been operating during the Iran-Israel conflict. We have persisted. Not a single truck has been diverted. We're in reasonable proximity to about 1 million of the Gazans in the Strip, and I think the U.S. Endorsement of the effort is Exhibit A, that is actually working despite a disinformation campaign, that is very, very deliberate, meant to shut down our efforts. And I'm sad to say, on Sky News right now, I saw some of that disinformation.
You're here. You have the opportunity to say what the disinformation was. I would encourage you to call it out if it is there, although I'm sure we can push back on that. But what are you saying is disinformation?
Yeah, I mean, we're not contesting at all that there have been casualties in the Gaza Strip. I mean, there's no ceasefire now. Okay, this is an active conflict. I think people that may not understand, as clearly what it means to operate a humanitarian operation on this scale. In an environment this complex, in a piece of land as small as the Gaza Strip, may not appreciate that almost anything that happens in the Gaza Strip is going to take place in proximity to something. And the sort of key piece of disinformation is, every single day, some figure comes out from the Gaza Health Ministry. It's normally, it's normally shared with a network like Al Jazeera, and then it sort of like goes around the world. Look, our mission is really simple. We just want to feed Gazans. That's the only thing that we want to do. It's our focus. Yeah, this is an independent organization that is operating certainly with the blessing of the U.S. government, and it's achieving its aims. And what's ironic to me, Gareth, is that the United Nations and all these international organizations, while they have never boycotted Hamas, they continue to boycott our efforts, and we're saying the exact opposite. We're extending a hand to them, saying, work with us. We've not got a huge amount of time, so I apologise if I kind of keep us kind of moving along slightly. I just want to show you this graphic, first of all. You talk about the United Nations, and you talk about the fact that there's this data coming from the Gaza Health Ministry. Well, the United Nations, as we can see, for its part, says that at least 410 people have been killed at the aid hubs over the course of their existence. So it's not just information coming from the Gaza Health Ministry. They provide different figures, but we do have information from the United Nations, which gives pretty concrete numbers, and numbers that I'm sure you would agree are too high. But
I also want to just pick up on your point with regards to the United Nations itself. We have spoken this morning to a spokesperson from the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. They say they are, and I quote, open to any practical solutions that address the crisis on the ground, happy to discuss this with yourselves. She's happy for us to say that, but she says that it is not currently a dignified process and that the format doesn't follow humanitarian principles. People have to walk for miles and there is no scalability. Aid is not reaching everyone in need.
Yeah, Gareth, I think one of the reasons why there's so much disinformation and why the United Nations can, and by the way, that I would contest the credibility of those figures. I mean, the difference between, what happens when the IDF is involved in an incident, and we're not denying that there have been those incidents. There have been those incidents, but we're able to talk to the IDF. The IDF does an investigation. The IDF is a professionalized, military. Hamas is intentionally harming people for the purpose of defaming, what we're doing. And until you just said this now, that's the first, as far as I'm aware, that's the first moment where the United Nations has responded at all to our repeated quest over months, of planning and weeks of this first operation to even be willing to meet with us whatsoever. In fact, I addressed a letter to the Secretary General just last week, citing as much. I mean, the UN hasn't even condemned Hamas for killing our local Gazan aid workers whatsoever. But, we're here saying, like, we want to work together. Like, not a single one of our trucks have been diverted. 95% of the UN trucks have been diverted that have gone into the Strip. We're not here to replace the UN. We're here to do the same thing, to feed Gazans. And we're open-minded. We want to work together. We want to do it in a meaningful way. But we're not going to play politics with people's lives. And I'm sorry, but that's what the United Nations is doing. Hopefully, based upon what you just said, that will change. We're ready to go anywhere in the world to speak with them, but we're not going to speak with them if it's an exercise in mutually assured destruction for the Gazan people. We're there as Americans to give away food for free when for many, many years, these programs have unfortunately been used for nefarious purposes.
I appreciate that. I think it's also really important to hear from Gazans themselves. They are the people at the very heart of this issue. They are the people that you, the United Nations, the World Central Kitchen, all the other aid organisations are trying to support. We've heard from some of them that are utilising your sites.
Yes, but we do care about the Gazan people. That's why we're there. Our mission is to feed Gazans. Secondly, there is a major food insecurity issue in Gaza. That's the best explanation for the crowding around our sites, the crowding around all sites. When the missiles started flying in the conflict between Israel and Iran, we immediately surged additional aid into the Gaza Strip in order to get more aid to more people. Like, I understand. I'm not sure of those particular videos. I don't know the source of those videos. I don't know who those people are. But the reason why we're there is to address this problem. And while we just heard from two Gazans, and I'm not questioning the sincerity of their concern, I can tell you we hear from thousands of Gazans every day that are thanking us, thanking the United States of America, thanking our other partners for getting food to them, and we're not going to stop. I mean, we're going to keep moving forward, helping as many people as we can, and we're inviting other people to help us help them.